Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to take this time to mix up the topics a little bit. I'm going to talk about a little bit of politics. I'm going to talk about the delineation of Black people. I'm Black myself, and then I'm going to get into some other social topics like the gerrymandering that's going on in Virginia, where Virginia wants to have 10 representatives from the Democratic Party and only one Republican. That is insane. But first, when we deal with Black Americans, and the Democratic Party is very, very good at doing this. You always hear the term Black and brown people. And in the past, and it wasn't that long ago, that you had some Africans trying to sue for reparations. Now, if you think about it, it was your Boule Africans that sold Black people into slavery. Nobody wants to talk about that. Your Roland Martins, your Tiffany Crosses, your Whoopi Goldberg, all these Boule niggas out here. And if you look at the Divine Nine, and if you're not familiar with what the Divine Nine is, the Divine Nine is made up of 5 fraternities and 4 sororities. I know I tried to get into one of the Divine Nine fraternities. You know, they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let me in because I didn't believe in Barack Obama. I tried to join Kappa Alpha Psi back in 2012, 2013. Went to the smoker and everything. But the brothers were upset that I did not believe in Barack Obama. Now, there was another Boule fraternity that started out in 1904. But with the 9 fraternities and sororities, now what are they? Well, when you lead off with the fraternities, you had Phi Beta Sigma, which started at Howard University, Kappa Alpha Psi, which started at Indiana University, right here in Indiana, Alpha Phi Alpha. Then you had Omega Psi Phi, the Q Dogs. It's another one that started at Howard University. And then you had a later one. They didn't get into the Pan Hellenic Conference until 1963. Now, they came out of the same university that Groove Phi Groove came out of, and that's Morgan State University in Baltimore. And then you have the sororities, the Sigma Gamma Rhos, the Alpha Kappa Alphas, the Delta Sigma Thetas, and then you had the Zeta Phi Betas. Now, these are the fraternities that house most of your so-called upscale Black Americans. These are all the ones who believe in the Democratic Party. And if you do not associate yourself with the Democratic Party, for the most part, you're not getting into any of these Boule fraternities and sororities. Now, do they have other fraternities and sororities outside of the Divine Nine? Yes, they do. I'm in one. Since I couldn't get in the Divine Nine, I decided to join a smaller branch. And the brothers were pretty mixed. I'm a member of the Phi Eta Psi fraternity. It actually came after the Iota Phi Thetas. Now, my fraternity is not in the Divine Nine. Didn't want to be in the Divine Nine. In fact, in order to become part of the Divine Nine, you had to have, I believe, at least 200 chapters, at least. And that's a lot of chapters. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, because you have a number of Black people who are part of those fraternities and sororities who are still crying that we are oppressed. Now, when I look around at all of your major cities, Baltimore, Washington, Atlanta, Detroit, New Orleans, Houston, Los Angeles, Chicago, there's some more out there. Heck, even a small city here in the Indianapolis area, Lawrence, Indiana, and Michigan City. It's run by Black people. Gary, Indiana. Now, the issue with Black people is that if you look at what a number of these so-called boule Black people do, they actually take from the little guy as well. And that bouleism is into the churches. Now, I'm bringing all of this up because you got your Roland Martins out there, your Don Lemons out there, the ones who act as if they're big and bold and they believe that they speak for all of us. Now, where am I going with this again? I'm going with the ADOS and I'm going with the FBAs. You got people like Charlemagne and God who believe they speak for us. Now, what you're looking at is the Democrats are taking all the Black people and they're trying to stick them together to what? Piggyback off the civil rights movement. So, in other words, you have Black people who were not even born here. They're crying about racism, which many of the Black people, like your Haitians, your Jamaicans, your Africans, heck, a number of them look down upon Black people. Now, let's get an idea of what I'm talking about so you'll know. When I'm talking about the delineation of Black Americans, this is what I'm talking about. It's focusing on FBAs, Foundational Black Americans, or ADOS. ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slavery. Now, what the FBAs and the ADOSs are doing, they're basically seeking, and it's about time, to distinguish themselves, and we're dealing with identity here. We're not dealing with race, we're dealing with identity. And what we're doing, we're trying to distinguish ourselves from the multi-generation American ancestry from the more recent Black immigrants. Somalians are Black. You know, some of your Indians are Black. We call them sand niggas, but they're Black. Africans, Caribbeans. And basically, advocates argue this lineage-based identification protects their unique history of slavery and Jim Crow, ensuring that reparations and politics focus remain on descendants. So, the key aspects of the FBA and the ADOS movement are the lineage-based identity. So, FBA and ADOS is a lineage-based designation. It's not a racial one, or not just a racial one, but it basically highlights the descendants of the freedmen who were emancipated in the United States. Then what we're really trying to do is separate ourselves from immigrant experiences. See, the Democrats, what they're doing is they're taking all of us and putting us under the umbrella of minority. Well, we are minorities, but the other minorities who didn't go through the slavery like black people did believe that they can get the resources. Now, if you look at it, when it comes to whites, your Western European whites, they were your uppity whites. But did they have some racism out there against other whites? They had racism against the Irish, the Italians, even the Eastern Europeans, the ones that were in Poland and Czechoslovakia, and even some in Germany, and even the Jewish. But you have the political focus, people like Roland Martin, they'll tell you that they believe in reparations. No, they don't believe in reparations. Now, when it comes to reparations and the political focus of ADOS and ADOS, the movement emphasizes that resources and historical redress should be targeted towards those with direct enslaved and ancestry within the United States. That's the foundational Black Americans. Other Black people should not be included. Immigrants who are illegal, immigrants, period, should not be included because they weren't out there on the front lines fighting. But yet, you see the immigrants coming over here and they're getting businesses. They're moving into decent areas. In fact, some of the Spanish individuals are moving into Black towns and they won't even let Black people back into towns where Black people live. Now, here's what I've always believed in. I've always believed in equality, not integration. But see, people like Martin Luther King, they were fighting for, and some of the Black leaders, Medgar Evers, the Black Panthers, although they meant well, these are individuals that wanted integration. And when integration came, everything that the Blacks built was no longer utilized because they wanted to join whites. They wanted to be like my whites. If you look at the Black churches now, the Black churches in some of the Black schools, they're basically being inundated with the same sex agenda. Now, I will tell you this about most Black people in the past. The church symbolized something. The church used to be a social place of gathering at the time of movements. But if you look at it now, you've got your pastors, you've got your celebrities, people like your Steve Harveys, your Ricky Smileys, your D.L. Hewleys, your LeBron Jameses. These are the individuals still sitting on that Democratic plantation. And don't get it twisted. Stephen A. Smith, he sits out there as well. He tries to take up like he knows about politics. Stephen A. Smith does not know about politics. He is a sports caster. He knows about sports. And one of the reasons why a lot of Black people, particularly your African American women, they all went to school, but they have all been indoctrinated. In fact, if you look at society now, as I move into the next topic as well, a lot of your white liberals, old and young, these are the individuals that don't like Trump. And because they don't like Trump, some of them are going on social media, they're going on the mainstream media, and for the most part, they're just lying. In fact, the Democrats, they really want power. They don't care about the American people. They want to stay in power. They want to fill the Supreme Court. the Democratic Party is the party of the Ku Klux Klan. And the whole purpose of the Democratic Party and the Ku Klux Klan was to stop the Republicans. And that's what they want to do now. You have a lot of states. Now, Indiana, they didn't vote for it. In fact, the lieutenant governor here in Indiana, he had threats of people firing at his house with drones and some of the other lawmakers because of redistricting. But see, Texas did redistricting, but the Democratic Party in California, Maryland, Massachusetts, they also did redistricting. And it's funny how the Democrats talk about cheating when they're the cheaters. See, the Democrats cannot win, so what they are going to do, they're going to continue to have the Trump derangement syndrome. Most of the vote that is out, and this is why I want you conservatives and you Republicans, if you really want to stop this nonsense, you have to get out and vote during the midterms. Or what's going to happen? The Democrats, if they get in power, there's going to be a lot of hearings on President Trump. You're going to see the same thing with Trump in his last 2 years as you saw with Trump in the final 2 years of his presidency. Now, it's funny how you hear the Democrats talking about high prices, but they forget that when Joe Biden was in power, we had high prices. We had almost everything goes. Women and men trying to be the same. You had your transgender, which there were men going into spas with children, slinging their sausage around, and nothing happened. You had the George Floyd, and that was during the Rona days, but people got out. But all that stems from the Obama. He's the one that really put the alphabet community in the mix with the marriage. Then he put out during his tenure. This is when you had all the issues with the cops. And see, with all these Democrats, they don't want ICE around. They don't want anybody in power who wants to do the right thing. The Democratic Party is destructive. And one of the reasons why the Democratic Party is having problems with blacks, and this is where the FBA and the ADOS goes into the mix against the immigrants, it's because when it comes to DEI, and I was listening last night to a video where a black woman, a congresswoman, was talking about DEI. Let me tell you something, black people, particularly heterosexual black men, DEI has never helped you. It will never help you. The way DEI is framed, it's white women first. Then we're going to have maybe Latino and Spanish women after that. Then we're going to have the alphabet community after that. Then we're going to get into our disabled individuals. Then you may have your black women after that. Then guess who's after that? Your veterans. And then we're black men at the bottom. This is what's wrong with this country. We're forcing all this diversity and we're putting all these women and illegals in power. And what are they doing? They're fucking up the country. I mean, you look at how men are being raised. Men are being raised by women and they're raised weak. We have more simp boys than what I've ever seen. They don't want to go to the military. They don't want to be, they don't like the cops, but they don't want to be cops. And when it comes to black people, yeah, you have a number of people, and including some of the whites. Oh, yeah, they wanted the blacks, the FBAs, to join their movement. Shout out to black people. They didn't join the movement. They set out. Now, what the Democrats are hoping is the Voter Rights Act doesn't pass, or we get rid of or the Voter Rights Act did pass, or they get rid of the Voter Rights Act, and then they have the SAVE Act. You have a lot of Republicans who are rhinos who don't want it either. And a lot of the Republicans, in my humble opinion, they're very scared. But I tell you what, the Democrats, you put them in power. One thing about the Democrats will make up any excuses to retain their power because they know that the majority of America doesn't agree with anything that they say or do. They know that a number of Americans believe in this stupid stuff. They don't even believe what half they say. But they want to utilize the system that they believe is broken to bring in people who will be another voting base. And that includes a number of these people like Roland Martin, these so-called tethers. Well, here's the thing. Roland Martin, Tiffany Cross, Joy Reid, all these other black people, they don't speak for me. These are the individuals who are always going to be on a plantation. Yeah, they may have money, but they're still working for somebody. I mean, you think with all the money Steve Harvey has, he would have his own business? No. Steve Harvey works for a radio network, and that radio network, unless it's Radio One, it's not even owned by blacks. Tom Joyner, he was another one. The hardest working man in radio, working in Dallas and in Chicago the same day. Yeah, he was the hardest man working in radio. He retired, but he was working for somebody else. And a lot of these blacks, these are these old Negroes. Some of the baby boomers, and even some in my generation, the Gen Xers. And the problem with a lot of blacks is if you don't agree with what the so-called tether blacks or these boule niggas out here say, boule Negroes, you're a sellout. You're a sellout if you don't walk lock, step, and barrel with the Democratic Party. This is why I'm telling a lot of you brothers out there, if you're going to college, if you're going to join a fraternity, join one that is not part of the Divine Nine, or start your own fraternity up. See, one thing about black people, like you look at Morehouse, you had some individual, I forgot his name, they have him up there with the Martin Luther King picture. You have the guy who used to beat women, who started in 1966 Kwanzaa. The bottom line is black people are following the wrong people. You look at who's running everything. Black people in the cities. And you look at the homicide rate in the city. I'm not talking about white people. What about black people? They got every opportunity in the city. But I still see that black people, they don't hire their own. They're getting on TV. You look at Abby Phillips. She's another tether. She's one that has an African descent. Now, we all have some type of descent. People like me were never born in Africa. This is why when I hear some of the pro-blacks talk about Africa, many of them have never even been to Africa. I'm going to tell you this about some of these African dudes. I know I work for a few, and the Africans I work for, they slave you much harder than white boys do. In fact, a number of these other blacks, like your Haitians, your Caribbeans out there, then you got your Moroccans, your Somalians, all these other ones, they're coming over. See, these people are trying to replace us as black people. The illegal immigrants are the new black people. They're coming over, taking all the blacks' jobs, and where blacks living in the hood, poor. And what really gets me is you don't have enough black men running for office. It's the black women running for office. In fact, I was coming down 96th Street here in Indianapolis. Now, she's not going to win, and I should have taken a picture of it. It would have been my background. She got a woman running for Congress. And that sign said, impeach Trump. And see, they've been yelling about impeaching Trump. They've been thinking, you know, Trump was not a king, but they had no king's protest. All of these movements, and it's funny what's going on in Virginia with some of these races. A lot of that money that's coming into Virginia for the gerrymandering, it's out of state money. It's coming from California, Democratic states. That should be illegal. In fact, if you take the money out of politics, it would be a lot better. Because if you're a politician and you want to run for office, you need to put your own money up. And we need term limits. The issue is you really have a two-party system that's disguised as one party. They're both the same party. You know, the people on the right, they try to be innocent by not talking about anything when they're part of it as well. They're not as vocal as the Democrats are, but they tell lies too. And when it comes to black people, going back to black people, the reparations, all the resources, all the jobs, all what black people have fought for, and then you have all these other minorities. This is why I get upset when I hear the black and brown people. First of all, the brown people weren't part of what blacks went through. But yet, they believe, some of the brown people, the Somalians, believe we should be out there helping them. Now they're going to come together and say we're all brothers. No, we're not all brothers. Because many of you other minorities, you'll call me nigger for that white man will call me nigger. Because a lot of these other minorities actually think they're white. Even when they have skin darker than mine. And they think they're better than me. I've worked with a number of them. And they certainly have a disliking black people. Yet they want to be part of black people. This is why I said foundational black Americans, we need to delineate ourselves. We need to be the ones to have a movement to fight for the resources and power, because all these other minorities that are coming in, trying to piggyback off the black experience, they want to compete with blacks. And that's what blacks aren't looking at. What they want to do is they want to keep us in poverty. They want us to always be part of the Democratic Party. And see, the Democratic Party wants to keep white supremacy alive. But what they're doing, they're using some of these tethers out there, the Congressional Black Caucus out there, as buffers for their racism. See what they're doing, they're calling people like Roland Martin. Putting Roland Martin out there, he started yelling with his bitch ass out there like he's going to do something. He's tough. That nigga ain't tough. Roly Poly Martin is weak. Don Lemon is weak. And all these guys that were on the news, they had an opinion. Typically, they're loud, just like the woman Angela Yee and that other woman that they had on the Breakfast Club. But you got to look at what's going on too with men in this country, and a number of men can't handle women. And when I mean can't handle women, they're afraid to persecute women. This is why women believe that they can get away with anything. It's why women aren't afraid of men, because women aren't going to go to jail. And you have domestic violence up. I've been reading that a number of black women have been getting killed out here by their partners. Well, it's always happened. But I said this back in 1998. I said there's going to be a lot of dead women out there next 20 to 30 years. And that was 30 years ago when I said that. That's because men are getting tired. You know, individuals who build this country, they've fought, and men have fought everywhere. You see how women act? See, women act as if they built this country. However, they relish the building of this country by men, but don't like men. They say, well, we don't need men. A lot of you women didn't do anything. Like even the Black Panther Party. And this is the problem. When you allow women in your movement, they destroy it. I mean, you think about it. Malcolm X didn't always have a pleasant life with his wife. His wife wanted the freedom. His wife wanted to screw around. There were days he would go out looking for his wife. People don't tell you that. Martin Luther King got stabbed by a black woman in 1955. And then history talks about Rosa Parks being the first one on a bus when she wasn't. 1945, it was Claudette, I believe. I forgot her last name. The only reason why she did not get the recognition is because she was pregnant. Rosa Parks wasn't. But we all relish Rosa Parks. But we don't relish any of these other individuals that were part of the movement. Yeah, you hear about Marcus Garvey. Yeah, Medgar Evers. You hear about, you know, when we talk about the Supreme Court. It's kind of funny. Who got on the Supreme Court before black women did? Because Ketanji Jackson was a DEI. She doesn't know anything. She had Thurgood Marshall. People forget about him. He was the first black on the Supreme Court. But I'll tell you the one that they don't like now, they don't like Clarence Thomas. But Clarence Thomas is a very brilliant man. And I'm going to tell you something, black people, you keep believing in this white progressivism, it's going to really set you back. Because these white liberals, they're not for you. They're not for me. Now, I'm not going to say the Republicans are for us either. These Democrats, Malcolm X said that there is, this was back in the 50s and 60s, it's political football between the white liberal, white conservative. But the white liberal acts as if they like you. I mean, you look at Obama going out there. Obama talking about the gerrymandering out there. Obama talking about we're pushing back against Donald Trump. But then he said, we don't need gerrymandering. Well, which is it, Obama? The funny thing about the Democrats, they double clutch. When they do the same thing, it's actually equality, making the system better. But when the Republicans do the same thing, it's fascism. And see, what's happening here is, this is what the black woman does to the black man. The way you control somebody is to make them see everything your way. You use ad hominem attacks. You insult them or shame them. You loud talk them. And you listen to the rhetoric that's fed to you. That's nothing but bullshit. In which you in a rhetoric like your education, if the other person who's black doesn't have the education that you have, you demean them by thinking that you're better. And the bottom line is you're not better. And that's the problem in this country. We have the news media. The news media is only going to tell you what they want to tell you. You don't hear them talking about tariffs. You don't hear them talking about affordability anymore. And you look at Mondami. So you have all these foreign nationals coming into our country because of the Democrats. And they're going to take this country, because what it is you got women and you've got these illegals, these foreign nationals trying to run this country. You put peasants in charge. What do we have? We have chaos. Now, I'm not saying that patriarchy is 100%, but the patriarchy is a structure. But see, a lot of you men out there allowed the patriarchy to become destroyed. And as far as black people, we never had a patriarchy. In other words, a true patriarchy is built and designed and catered to by men. That's a true patriarchy. And the structure is set and built by men. Well, in the black community, we never had a patriarchy, a true patriarchy. And when it comes to a matriarchy, it's not really a true matriarchy, it's a de facto matriarchy. In order for a true matriarchy to be formed, somebody's got to enforce it. And the women are not going to enforce it. In fact, if you really want power in this country or any other country, you got to take it. This is why the white man, even though he really didn't invent anything, he took everything and claimed it. He took power. And how do you take power? You take it by muscle. Regardless of what anybody says, you can have all the brains in the world. I mean, you think about what the military is. You know, the Straits of Horus. You know, if America wanted to, they could knock Iran right off the map today and set their own oil fields up, put the United States over there. There wouldn't be anything anybody could do. But see, America is a civil country. But see, for the last 40 years, Iran has always wanted to destroy America because they don't like the way America does things. Now, again, if I look at Iran, and I've been over into the Middle East, been Turkey, haven't been over there to Syria, Pakistan, or those countries. But they live off of what we call a theocracy. Everything is about the religion over there. That's how their government is run. They believe in Allah. But here in America, the Christianity here is fake. If you think it's real, ask the question, why aren't heterosexual men going to church? You look at your pastors. Their pastors have catered into the progressivism. If you don't believe me, look at Warnock. Raphael Warnock. Anybody ever heard of him? Dumb people in Georgia put him in. He's a pastor, but he's a left winger. Look at the Italian guy, Tafaro, or whatever his name is, in Texas. He's going to be running against one of the Republicans. I'm just going to say this to you Republicans out here right now. You better get out there and vote. I'm going to vote. And you better vote for the right reason. See, the Democrats are already fired up. They already have Trump derangement syndrome. Their whole mass is, we want to get Trump out of it. They don't care about policies. This is what you got to understand. What you need to do, Republicans, is be partisan, care about the policies, but only care about the policies when you have the power to do something. If the Democrats are gerrymandering, you gerrymander. But the problem is the Democrats, because they're filled with a lot of women, they're going to shame you. They're going to call you racist. That's how people stop the debate. No, if you don't care about what they say and you fight for what you believe in, so you got to stand on it. I don't like the Democrats at all, but at least the Democrats stand on who they are. They're cheaters. We already know it. They cheat. But you know what? You're not going to screw over black people this time. See, the problem is with the Democrats, they've been getting over black people for a long time. In other words, they've been making all the promises to black people. I'm talking about the foundational black Americans, not you other guys who want to be part of America. Now we're all brothers, like I said. No, we're not all brothers. I do not identify with an African. I do not identify with a Haitian. And I do not identify with a Caribbean. The fact that cultures are different. I don't even identify with a black Latino. And just because we all share the same color skin doesn't make us all brothers. Heck, I don't even identify with a number of the FBAs here. Because still, you got a lot of black men out here, believe it or not. Who are they voting for? They're voting for the Democratic Party. And they actually get on panels with people like Roland Martin. You got all these guys like Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Lamont Hill. These are the individuals who were supposed to be part of the academia. They fall right on the plantation with the Democrats. And what they do, some of them say that they're Christians. I was watching a clip from The View, and they were talking about how Christian they are. Well, I'm going to tell you something. In America, there are not a lot of Christians that utilize Christianity as a cover for not giving up sex. It's true. You go out with a guy as a woman, and you tell him, I'm not going to do this on a first date, or on a second date, or on a third date, or you're going to wait, but yet you want that guy to go out and spend all of his money on you. What you're doing is you're holding sex over his head through religion. In the meantime, you probably got kids and you're saying, well, I'm not going to do this till we get married. You already did it. That's the problem. You're using the lies. And that's what the Democrats do. They lie and they shame. And really what they're trying to do, they really are for the illegals. That's why they don't want ICE. And it's just not black people, it's white liberals. The white liberal woman is the most dangerous woman. And then you have the black woman. We call them Keisha. The black liberal woman is the white liberal woman's foot soldier. She puts her out there to do all the barking orders, fake orders. But because you have so many people who are very stupid out here, they don't know what's going on. Most of the people, when they do research, they do surface research because they're too lazy and they're afraid to find out the truth. See, with the Democratic Party, it's not about the truth. It's about the power to control us. And the reason why I don't like Donald Trump is because Donald Trump is standing in the way of globalism, because that's really what it is about. These liberals out here, I don't even want to call them liberals, these progressives out here marching around with their commie flags. They want a third world country like the other countries because they believe that this system here that was set up to where we can progress and make it on merit was a mistake. They really believe that the Constitution was a mistake. But it's kind of funny how you have a lot of these professors, a lot of these transient people. It's funny because even within this country, you have people who actually actually moved from California to places like Florida. They didn't want to deal with the policies in California, but they'll move to Arizona and Texas and bring their policies with them. So they don't change anything, they just move it with them. Because all you're doing, you're moving individuals out of California, but you still have people who live in California with the California values. But the people moving out with the California values are infecting other states with the California values. So in the end, you have individuals, particularly your progressives in here. And before I go on, you individuals in Virginia, the polls are closed now. The primaries on the ballot. Gerrymandering is on the ballot. And you conservatives, I hope you voted out there. Vote no on redistricting because that money is coming in from other states for Virginia to pick up more seats because Texas started. Now, Indiana, they were going to do it, but they said no. But here in Indiana, we don't really need to do it here at all because it's mainly Republican. Florida is mainly Republican. Texas is mainly Republican. But see, the Democrats believe that if we take all the Republicans out in every election, and this is what you all vote for, and anytime you hear a Democrat tell you that they're moderate, you better look at them side eye. Because you had an individual in New Jersey who was in the military. Look at that state. Terrible. All your blue states are run terrible. High taxes, high crime. Now, I'm not saying there's not a lot of welfare in the red states, but the red states are governing a lot better. But the real issue is here is your black people continue to have an independent mind. See, the Democrats have taken our votes for granted and have done nothing. We don't have the economy that we should have because the resources are passed out to the Somalians. And all the Somalians did was just take advantage of the tax money that they were getting from people like Tim Walz of Minnesota and California. And if you look at all the businesses that are being built, I know when I run up and down 82nd, 86th Street here in Indianapolis, I don't see any black businesses. Yeah, you have Country Kitchen. You have a few of them. But most of them I see are all Mexican. There's an Applebee's right up here on 82nd Street. It's not too far from Denny's. It was an Applebee's. Now, a Mexican restaurant, if you drive by it, you see colorful letters that say tequila. Now, you did have the habanero up there on 96th Street, which was Ruby Tuesdays. That's closed. But a lot of these restaurants, they're either Mexican, Indian, and Asian. And this is what the Democrats want. They want America to be the new Middle East and Asia. And this is why I don't believe anybody who's a foreign national, whether they immigrate legally. Now, if they immigrate legally and actually integrate themselves into the American system, speak English, understand that they are American, understand the Constitution, then it's okay for them to run to office. But when you're like Ilhan Omar and you're hating this country, but you're in office, because the worst people right now that I wouldn't vote for, and that's any woman on the ballot, particularly on the Democratic side, she will not get my vote. Never. I won't work for them in the workplace. I won't vote for them. No. Because this country is being overrun by women. And they don't vote on anything but stupid shit. All they talk about is what they're not getting, especially white women out there. You're the most entitled out there, and you're talking about being oppressed. And you black women. Because Clinton didn't want you all on welfare, he gave you money to go to school. And then you talk about protection, you got every simp black man out there that's protecting you. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But you still say black man ain't shit. That's fine. Like to be with your Brad, that's fine. Bottom line is, in the end, Brad doesn't like you. These other minorities don't like us. And I hate to say it, but a black man, you're definitely on your own. And many black men out here, the bottom line is, DEI is not for you. Now, I may have not covered everything in this video, but one thing I do want to say is this. If you want power, you got to take it. Now, unfortunately, the white men had the innovation, even though they stole things from other countries. They took what they stole and they got power. Some will never have. Not in this system. But we can have an economy of our own if we want to. Black man, I'm not saying, and this is generally speaking, black woman is not on your side because they've been jaded by feminism. Yet you follow them to the polls. You look at the Democrats, take your booty to the polls. These other minorities just use us, piggyback off of the movement that they were never part of. But yet still they're getting the resources. And when they get the resources, guess what? They now are treating you just like you said the white man is treating you, like shit. And I'm just saying this. as the truth, as harsh as it is. When you allow yourself to be complacent in a party that makes promises to you every election and they don't deliver, you become so complacent that even when you're lied to, you're going to continue to vote for that party. Because this party, they want to stay in power. They want to keep sending lies out here to corrupt the young ones because Trump is in office, because Trump is doing something different. Trump is playing chess. And think about this. Do you want more of the same that we had between 2018 and 2020? More hearings, impeachment. Heck, you already got the Democrats who want to impeach Trump already, and they don't even have the House. Yeah, the Democrats have been winning all these special elections. Why? Because they're out there voting. And even if it's because of Trump derangement syndrome, they vote. This is why you Republicans got to take it seriously. And if you don't take anything seriously, what's going to happen is the agenda that we had voted for, it's not going to be an agenda. We're going to go right back to the days of Biden, Harris, and communism. You know, the Democrats talk about high gas prices, but forget the 4 years of high gas prices. They talk about DEI. All this diversity is all phony. It's forced diversity. Forced diversity. It's multiculturalism. The forced diversity, even when you don't want it. To me, I believe in diversity of ideas, but the Democrats are going to make it about race, gender, sexual orientation. And if you have religion in you, you're out. But in the meantime, I'm just putting this video out as a wake-up call. Because you got to think about this. Even when the economy gets better, the Democrats want Trump out of there. Because Trump is in a way of globalism. He's taking all the hits. And for us who voted for him, we got to keep the Republicans in power, whether we like them or not, even the rhinos. In the meantime, I'm just going to say this. You better start reading books like Saul Alinsky, people like Bill Ayers, all these lefties. Because these Democrats, they're already fired up because of the bullshit they've been told by the mainstream media and by colleges. They have all these protests, and they're all funded. George Soros is part of it. And everything that you see they're doing is all lies, all fake. But when you're the dummy and you don't know any better, you fall for it. And in the end, the America that I voted for freedom and truth. The America that's on the left voted for tyranny and lies. But in the end, which country do you want to live in? A country where you can express yourself? Or a country that's filled with dictatorship? Because in the end, what's always going to win is innovation, not stagnation. Now, I'm not telling you who to vote for, but you better do research. Don't just research at the surface and take the feelings out of everything, because that's the problem. Because when it's all said and done, it comes to Americans. Americans are filled with lead. Lead stands for lies, emotion, assumption, illusion, and deceit. And if you don't believe me, you look at the news, you look at movies, you look at TV shows, and some of this stuff could be AI driven. But you got the people who are the losers with the microphone. And overall, we have a country that's flipped upside down. That's why nothing is working. Because we are living with a bunch of people who believe the lies. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for STEM content, check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me for the 401 Talk Zone radio show. That's this channel, the main channel. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter. You can also find me right here on YouTube. You can find me on True Social and Rumble. And for the QCIS channel, you can find me YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. And again, I just want to share this with you. Know who you are. If you're offended, this is going to hurt you for what I'm going to say. But if you're not offended, this will help you. I want to say this to you. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, then change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.